everyone. I welcome you to the CEC lecture series. I am Nupur Chawla, teaching English literature at Maitri College, Delhi University. In this lecture, we are going to continue our discussion of a very important essay by a 20th century feminist, Adrienne Rich, and the title of the essay is When We Dead Awaken, Writing as Revision. So it's an essay which was written in 1972. And in the previous lecture, we looked at the important ideas floated, that we notice in the title of the essay, and we also looked at the first argument that she makes while she writes this text. So the first argument that we had finished discussing was that how there's a change in the theme of the 20th century poets. That is the first observation that she makes in the text of hers. Now moving on, we look at the second important concern that one notices in her text. We see that she actually also talks about the idea of choosing the concerns or the subject or the themes and also the language for one's writing. Yeah, that is the other point of reference that Adrienne Rich deals with. So she kind of looks at that what is the politics behind the choice of concerns and the language that one uses in one's writing. Yeah, so when she goes into this question, the first thing that she mentions is that no male writer, she says, has written for women or has chosen his materials accordingly. So she actually first compares the concerns and language of the women and the male writers, female and the male writers. So she says that no male writer has ever written for women or has chosen his materials accordingly. Now, what does that mean? It means that when men were writing, they were not conscious of the fact that women would be reading their text. Now, what does that mean? This means that the way they represented women, the way they represented maybe female characters, etc., sometimes would also further the stereotypes in society, and men would not think twice about that. Yeah, and on the contrary, women writers have a lot of times been conscious about their readership. They are conscious about what kind of an argument are they making. They're also conscious about what kind of an image is being put out through the written word of theirs. So this is again an observation of Adrienne Rich, a basic point of difference between male writers and female writers. And therefore she mentions in the essay, and I'll quote, she says that women writers need to stop being haunted not only by convention and propriety but by internalized fears of saying and being themselves, unquote. Now, this quotation has very, very important terms. Now, she says that first of all, she makes a reference of the fact that how women are haunted by the convention and propriety. Okay, now men do not, according to Adrienne Rich, really worry about the idea of convention or propriety or what is appropriate to be stated in one's writings, what is not appropriate. So this entire question of what has already been done and what is proper, so to say in one's writings. So these concerns are not at the top of the mind of a man who's writing, but women do have this eye on convention and propriety, and Adrienne Rich says that this should not be the case. And secondly, she says that there are also internalized certain fears of saying and being themselves. Right? Again, what does that mean? That in their writings, one notices that they also seem to have internalized the apprehension of saying something that they have conviction in, or even being themselves, right? So you see, now let's please understand that Adrienne Rich is not passing a judgment, so to say, on women writers. She is not saying that they are apprehensive, or they are fearful by nature, or that's how women's writings are. No, she is kind of pointing towards certain so to say inflections that one notices at times in women writers, particularly when we look at them in comparison with what men have been doing. So while men have not been ever bogged down by convention, by the concerns of convention and propriety, there has been no inhibition in them to express themselves and to be themselves. But women, particularly women writers, because that's her concern, that is Adrienne Rich's concern. She says that we do notice some kind of a consciousness about these aspects in the women writers, and this is something that needs to be rethought. That's what Adrienne Rich says. So that's the second argument that we notice in her essay, where she discusses about the concerns and the language of one's writing, and also what are the attitudes that one notices, and the difference of attitudes in that sense between the male writers and the female writers towards their texts. Right now, from there we come to the third important argument that she makes in the essay, where she talks about the collective nature of struggle. After having discussed the concerns that one notices in women's writings, she discusses that how, she is aware that there's only a very small pool of women who are then able to become writers, who then are able to explore this kind of an agency or make the best of this kind of an agency to write. Yeah, so she is aware of that fact, that it's a small section of women. And therefore, she highlights that the struggle, which is, so to say, represented or inaugurated in the written word by these women writers, it is not the struggle of these individual or the small section of women writers alone, but instead it's a collective struggle that she points to. So she actually refers to the women who have had the privilege of education and a career, and those who are still suppressed. So she is very much aware of these two kinds of women. And over here she says something very important, and let's take a look at it. She says, our struggles can have meaning only if they can help to change the lives of women whose gifts and whose very being continue to be thwarted, unquote. Now over here, what is she trying to do? She is, of course, she began by first, mentioning about women's writing and the concerns that women take up and how they also reflect some kind of apprehensions. But now she says that the struggle that is represented by women writers in their writings, then they have meaning only if they are able to serve the purpose of changing lives of those women whose gifts and, in fact, as she says, whose very being continue to be thwarted. Thwarted means that they are not allowed to bloom completely. So she says that till the time these writings do not capture the struggles of these women, right, then these writings do not really have any meaning, right? So therefore, she's talking about the fact that while there might be a small section of women who are writing, and Adrienne Rich is also analyzing their concerns, etc. But here she also doesn't forget to point out that the struggle then has to be a collective one, where those women who do not have the agency to express themselves freely, those women who are still who are yet to get that kind of freedom, if these writings help their cause, that's the only way that we can give meaning to the women's writings that we are talking about, right? So that is the second important point that she, the third important point that she makes in the essay. From there, we move on to the fourth argument that we notice in her essay, where she then comes back to the concerns of women's writing, and she kind of examines the myths and the images of women in culture. Right? Now, what do we mean by myths and images of women? Now, you see, in the cultural sphere, particularly in the written word, the way women have been portrayed, the way women have been represented in literature by different writers, the kind of myths that have surrounded, or that have been constructed around women characters, all those images and myths are of extreme significance according to Adrienne Rich. So she says that the image of the woman is very, very crucial, particularly in books written by men. Right? Now, why is it crucial? Because you see, now this image then becomes the fodder not just of the other men, but even women consume these images of themselves which have been constructed by male writers. So what she is trying to do is that she is trying to examine what is the nature of these images, how have men portrayed women in their writings, and the cultural significance of it. Right? So let's look at this quote that she from the text where she's discussing this issue. Now, she over here gives us a kind of a cataloging of the way women have been represented. Now, she says, a terror and a dream, a beautiful pale face. What she does not find is sometimes inspired creature who sits at her desk trying to put words together, unquote. Now, you see, this quotation is divided into two parts. First, this quotation carries those phrases that kind of describe the way women have been represented by men in their writings. So a woman character is a terror and a dream. A terror and a dream means what? Very clearly we see what? That these are the two opposite ends of a spectrum, right? So either a woman character is supposed to be, she is demonized, right? Or which means that she's a terror, or she's a dream. A dream means that she is an object who is, so to say, sought after. So there's nothing in between, right? So, and when do you think would a woman be a terror? Very clearly and most obviously, when a man is constructing, such an image of woman, a woman would be seen as a terror if she has some kind of a selfhood, if she is a woman who questions, right? So if that is a kind of character, then the man will not represent her, according to Adrienne Rich, in a positive light. Instead, he will represent her as a terror. And on the other hand, is this other kind of depiction of women where she is looked at as a dream, right? Next, she says that we also see women as a beautiful pale face. Okay. Now you see, again, look at the word beautiful pale face. Now, as if the face, it's the face of the woman that seems to be the be all and end all of her existence. It's a beautiful face, but it's also pale. Pale, of course, why? Because of the struggles that she goes through, but at the same time, it is beautiful. Again, that is what? That is a man's vision of a woman as noticed in the images in men's writings, right? Now, then she goes on to the second part, and she says that what is difficult to find in men's construction of women in their writings is that we never see a woman who is inspired, who sits at her desk and tries to put together words, right? Who sometimes inspired creature who sits at her desk trying to put words together. That's what Adrienne Rich says. So she says that this kind of a woman has always been absent in these writings by men. And instead, what kind of a woman do we see? A terror and a dream who has a beautiful pale face, right? These are some of the limited images of women that we find in men's writings. Yeah. Then she goes on to, also then indicate that how these images not only serve or not only kind of contribute to the existing stereotypes in the society, at the same time she says that even the poets, even the women poets who now have started writing, they have grown up reading such male poets. They have grown up reading such texts by men, and these kind of constructions of women by men. So she says that women's style of poetry then develops around their reading of such male poets. So while defining her own self, also defines herself, the woman poet or the woman writer, while defining herself, she also defines herself in terms of her relationship with men. Right? So this fact of women's writing, or this observation that Adrienne Rich makes, that a lot of times in an attempt to define her selfhood, a lot of times she slips into defining herself in terms of her relationship with men. And she says that why is this? That is because this woman has also grown up reading male poets. So that kind of a engagement or that kind of a image of the woman then is also somewhat kind of internalized by the women poets as well. And over here, you see, that's the beauty of this essay, that this is an argument which is coming from her own writings. So she actually goes back to her one of her initial poems that is very and a very popular one, that is Aunt Jennifer's Tigers, right? So when Adrienne Rich goes back to her own poem, that is Aunt Jennifer's Tigers, she notices that her own definition of selfhood then in that poem is in terms of her relationship with men. Right? Now, the other thing that we also need to notice then is the fact that, Adrienne Rich is going into this kind of an analysis of what are the images, what are the myths, what are the definitions of womanhood that have persisted in culture all throughout, and the way they shape not just society and its attitudes towards women, but how these constructions then have also somewhat impacted the today's women poets as well, because they have grown up reading such literature. Right? Now, having established that, she moves to the next important segment in her argument, where she is now, after having analyzed about some of the important features of and the influences that one notices in their writings, she now talks about the transformative potential of women's writing. Right? And it's important for us to look at two very good quotations here from the essay. She says, and I quote, "For a poem to coalesce, for a character or an action to take shape, there has to be an imaginative transformation of reality which is in no way passive," unquote. Now, with this quotation, we actually enter into a very political aspect of Adrienne Rich's argument. Now, where she says that for a poem to actually, take shape, for a poem to appear in the form as we read it, there has to be an imaginative transformation of reality. Now, what does this phrase mean? This is extremely important. Imaginative transformation of reality. It means that for Adrienne Rich, the act of writing is an act of, or it is an attempt at transforming the reality, and transforming it imaginatively. Imaginatively, why? Because they're using their imagination to kind of highlight what is wrong in the current reality, and their dreams of a equal future, etc., are then reflected in these verses written by women. So all that which is missing right now is actually visualized, dreamt of, and thereby expressed in these poems by the women writers. And that's why she talks about the imaginative transformation of reality. So reality then is transformed by means of the written word in imaginative terms when women find space to express their dreams, and once those dreams are expressed in the written word, then that is the beginning of the change to occur in society, right? So from here we move to the next important quotation by Adrienne Rich, and she says, moreover, if the imagination is to transcend and transform experience, it has to question, to challenge, to conceive of the alternatives, perhaps to the very life you are living at that moment, unquote. Now, over here, what is she doing? She is very, very clearly highlighting that when women take to the imaginative space of writing, what do? Or how do they transcend, or how do they transform the reality? She very clearly highlights by questioning, by challenging, by conceiving of alternatives, right? By thinking of alternate ways of living, by thinking of alternate solutions to the current problems, by questioning, by asking questions, by challenging the current state of affairs. This is what comprises the transformative potential, right? Having talked about this, Rich further goes on to also discuss about now the challenges faced by the women who question and who thereby write, okay? And she says that to be a female human being trying to fulfill traditional female functions in a traditional way is in direct conflict with the subversive function of the imagination, unquote. So once she has established this idea of the transformative potential of women's writings, she is at the same time also aware of what? Of the fact that how the traditional female functions of having a child, taking care of a household, etc. So this is what she refers to as the traditional female functions. So these traditional female functions, they come in direct conflict with the subversive function of imagination, right? So she's trying to say that when a woman is, tries to transform the reality, it is this, these traditional functions do come in her way, and she makes this statement or this observation in the essay on the basis of her personal experience, where she talks about that time when she was having a child and how her, writing also took a hit, right? So this is another aspect that of women's writing and the challenge faced by women who are writing that Adrienne Rich points towards in her essay. Now, the final two very powerful thoughts that she expresses in her essay also seem to bring us to the central concern, the central concluding concern of Adrienne Rich's essay. The first is where she talks about that how the awakening of consciousness that has been her concern throughout the essay is not a crossing of a frontier, as she says, right? But it says that much of women's poetry has been a cry of pain, of victimization. It's a lyric of seduction. And today, much poetry by women, and prose for that matter, is charged with anger. So she says that this awakening of consciousness that I've been talking about in terms of, which is evident in women's writing, it is not a one-day affair. It is not a one-step, target. That is, you cross a frontier and you have, awakened the consciousness. No, she says that it's a kind of a process, right? So, having gone through the idea of women's writing, she says that one notices that it is not an easy task to achieve this kind of a consciousness. Instead, when we look at women's writings, we see that it carries the cry of pain, as she says. It carries a cry of victimization. Yeah, and a lot of women's poetry and prose, for that matter, is therefore charged with anger. Right? So it's almost like a work in progress. Right? It's a task which has been undertaken by women poets and writers at different points of time, and this awakening is a process instead of a one-step destination. right? That's the point that she finally arrives at the end of her essay. And the last thing that she mentions is that just as the woman is becoming her own midwife, creating herself anew, so man will have to learn to gestate and give birth to his own subjectivity, unquote. So you see, now this is a very, very interesting quotation where she uses these symbols, so to say, of gestation, of midwives, and how wonderfully she says that when woman is becoming her own midwife. Now, who's a midwife? Midwife helps in delivering the child. So when so what does this metaphor over here mean? So it's like when the woman is in the process of coming into being, when the woman is in the process of giving birth to this liberated self of hers, when she is creating herself anew and she's doing it all by herself, when this process is ongoing, that is also referred to as awakening of consciousness by Adrienne Rich. At the same time, she says that men also have to learn to gestate. Gestate means that it's that period where you are, nurturing, where you are giving birth to a new phenomena, right? So men also at the same time have to learn to gestate. And gestate what? And give birth to his own subjectivity, right? So men's own subjectivity, which means that they need to define their selfhood, which is not based on subjugation of women, right? So while women are working towards an evolved self, while women are working towards a free and liberated self, creating herself anew, at the same time, men also have the responsibility of gestating, of nurturing, of giving birth to this other selves of theirs as well, which is not based on subjugation of women, but instead it is based on a particular kind of a subjectivity that is ready to accept such a woman that has created herself anew, right? So these are some of the points that Adrienne Rich makes in this essay, and I would urge you to also look at other essays of hers that we mentioned in the first lecture, and also maybe go through her poems, where she continues this so to say engagement with the women's question at different levels. Thank you.